It's Friday, at least if you're listening to this in order. This is Guided by Faith. I'm your host, Jay Holland. Congratulations on making it to the end of a week. For some of you guys, this may be the first week of the school year if you're one of those lucky late August starters. If so, good for you, and sorry, you got to do it. We're praying for you and hope that you adjust, adapt, and I'm proud of you. You're checking in on your spiritual life, and you're submitting yourself to spending time with the Lord. And I think that's a great thing, and God's going to bless and reward you as you faithfully, consistently spend time with Him. This week, we've been really camping out in one verse in the beginning of the book of Romans. It's really the theme verse for the whole book of Romans. Romans 1:16, I'm going to read 17 as well today. It says, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation for everyone who believes, to the Jew first and also to the Greek. For in it the righteousness of God is revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the righteous shall live by faith." This week we have looked at Paul's purpose for writing Romans. We have talked about what the gospel is. We've talked about how it's the power of God for salvation, not just for eternity, but for your day-to-day life. And the scandal that Jesus will save people that you don't even like. Jesus will take people to heaven that you don't even want to be in the same room with. And that's a radical thing, but we have to humble our hearts and submit to the Lord that, man, He's just more loving than we are, and He will save anyone who comes to Him and asks for forgiveness. I want to finish it out with actually what's in the very beginning. I want to finish out this week with the beginning of Romans 1:16, where Paul says, "I am not ashamed of the gospel." And I want to present that question to you. Are you ashamed of the gospel? Are you ashamed of Jesus? Do people in your life know that you're a Christian? Like, do they definitively know that you're a Christian? And not just like, I'm a Christian by birth, or yeah, I go to church sometimes. Would people look at your life and say, you know what, this person actually follows Jesus. This person must believe that it's true. Because ultimately what it comes down to is like, are you ashamed of Jesus? When we say ashamed of the gospel, ultimately what we're talking about is, am I ashamed of Jesus? Now, in Paul's day, there might be a real reason to be ashamed of Jesus, because Jesus was considered a radical, and Jesus was crucified. And in Jewish culture, the Bible says, in the Old Testament, there's a verse that says, "Cursed is anyone who hangs on a tree." And so Jews especially considered people who died on a cross, they were hung on a tree, to be especially cursed of God. Now, we know this is true. Jesus was accursed of God, but He was accursed for our sake. Paul, because of this, he was like, I'm not ashamed. Yes, I'm following a man who was hung on a cross, who was cursed, but he's not just a man, and he didn't stay on a cross. He rose again. And I think that the gospel of Jesus is the power of God. But back in your life and my life, are you ashamed of Jesus? Are you willing to bow your head and pray and give thanks to God before you eat a meal, whether it's at school or in a restaurant, or even at your house when your friends are there? Are you willing to go if there's a Christian club at your school? Are you willing to go to that Christian club? Are you willing to invite your unchurched friends to go to it? Are you willing to tell people about Jesus? Are you willing to share your faith with people? Or do you want to hide all of that because you're afraid you're going to be made fun of? Now, when I was in my middle and high school years, I had this weird double standard. I didn't mind at all anybody knowing that I was a Christian. I had no problems with them knowing that I was going to church. And I was tender in many ways to the things of God, but I was not a witness for Him. I didn't want anybody thinking I was too Christian, if you know what I mean. So I largely just mimicked the language, the attitudes, and the actions of my friends around me. Now, they knew I was a Christian, but they certainly wouldn't have looked at me and said, this guy loves Jesus. He follows Jesus. I was ashamed of Jesus, and I didn't even know it. I would have, in church, I'm happy to pray. I'm happy to sing. I have no problems being there. I know the Bible verses. But when I'm out in public and in my public school, I dial that way down. Even with praying, I always gave some kind of thanks before my meal, but it was almost like I was looking at my belly button and sneezing for a second. I was ashamed of Jesus, and I don't want you to be ashamed of Jesus. I don't want you to be ashamed of the gospel. Why? Because it's the power of God for salvation for you and for your friends. And so as we close out this week, I just want you to evaluate, are you living your life in such a way where whether you say you're ashamed of Jesus or not, in your head, your life would make somebody think that you are? You're dialing it down, you're hiding it, you're covering it. Or are you bold and say, no, I belong to Jesus and I'm following him and he's my king and you need to follow him as well. I love Jesus. This isn't pounding people over the head with the Bible. This is living out the hope that's inside you so that you have an opportunity to share that hope as well. Don't be ashamed of Jesus. Jesus says, if anybody denies me before men, I'll deny them before my Father. So let's not be deniers. Let's be proud and thankful for the gospel of Jesus and take any opportunity that we have to share it with others.